Hey everybody, how is it going? It is April 10th, 2024. This is the RambleCast. I'm your host, Cody Toombs, and with me, we got Corbin Davenport.
Hello. I've been absent for a long time.
Yes, you have, and your voice expresses so much enthusiasm for being back.
Yep, I was sick and then I was traveling and then I got the sickest I've been in probably a few years and I'm still kind of sick. So, we're having a great time.
None of those are the reasons that I told people you weren't here.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm like the president. You not allowed to say when I'm moving for safety reasons. Um but afterwards I could talk about it. It's fine.
and also, like the president, there are people talking to web cameras telling everyone who's listening that you're currently committing crimes.
Also, like the president, I don't know where I am right now. That's a joke.
I mean, is it?
I think I know where I am. Um, Biden probably knows.
Um, Metric Brawl is seeking help. I don't think he's gonna get it from Corbin though. And hello Diablo, how's it going?
I simply do not watch the game streams. That's my secret.
Yeah, but do you know how much you're missing out on? Not much.
Yes. I mean, I don't. I really don't watch like any live gaming stuff at all. So it's not personal. I just don't really do it because if with most stuff I'm watching, I'm like, man, I could be playing a game right now, and then I just go play a
Yeah.
game.
No,
That's
truth be
really it.
told, I very, very rarely watch any live gaming. Um, I mean, it does happen every once in a rare while, but yeah, I watch live game streams like I want to say like once every maybe 4 months. Um,
Hmm.
and half the time it's because like there's some event like there's drops going on or something like that, and it's like okay, sure, I'll watch just for the bare amount of time that's required in order to get the drop, and then I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah,
So
but some people are very funny, so I'll watch them if they're doing something. Um,
that's fair.
so someone got iPhone 4S, iPhone 5, iPhone 6, and LG G4 from an Apple store. Okay, so that's where the trade-in phones go. After they get thrust through the void and then end up in someone else's drawer.
I mean, that's
I don't.
usually how it goes.
Yeah, I also have an old iPhone behind me. Actually, I have several. Um, what do I have? I uh, have an iPhone. Is this a 4? I don't remember what this one is. It's in a case.
The question is, can it get a signal if you hold it?
No, it's my original iPhone SE. So, oh, come on, camera, you can do it. You can focus. Wow, it's very ill. Um, I was using this for a while when I did yard work because it was a lot easier to put this in like an armband thing than my actual phone that was much bigger. And I guess I could still do that if I wanted to, but I currently don't have a yard, so that's been less of a concern. But yeah, I have this SE. I have an iPhone 3G. Yes, I have a 3G.
I have, well, I've got a lot of stuff lying around, but
Yeah.
I do have,
There's a lot more crap over there. I don't need to show it all.
yeah, I do have an original iPhone 4. And I do have a first gen SE, which, I mean, objectively, these two things aren't really that different, except for the internals of the SE. But let's be honest,
Mhm.
those were like really low bin parts, so it ended up performing a lot like an iPhone 4 by the end of its life. Um,
No, sadly not. I'm keeping my SE. That's my. I had a second. I had another SE that I sold, and so I just have that one, and I have a third gen, I think, and that's my current designated backup phone. So I got to keep that. Um, I have the 5X, but of course it boot loops. I don't think I yeah. My 5X it does power on the last time I tried it, but I don't know what the lock screen password is. So I can't get into it. Um it's also very gross to touch now because that soft plastic
yeah,
ages.
yes.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. That and I just got out my original Nook. That's I think I got that in like 2011 or 2012. Um, and it had the soft touch plastic back, and it is absolutely disgusting to touch now. It sticks to my hand. It's gross.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mostly got that out because Barnes and Noble gave me a very slight discount on a new Nook. But I had to check what the serial number on that one was.
Oh, that soft touch plastic. Or rubber, whatever it is. I swear, I want to go through everything in my house just looking for that stuff so I can throw it away.
It's pretty gross.
Yeah. Yeah, when I
Turns out
if I touch
Samsung
something
with
and it
the
sticks to my hand, I probably don't want it around me.
Turns out Samsung with the soft touch or the fake leather was winning.
Yeah.
or just cheap plastic. You can do that. All my plastic shit from 15 years ago is still fine.
So anyway, shall we talk about things and subjects?
Things that matter? Okay. If you insist.
I really don't, but it seems like a thing. If we do that now, then we can stop sooner, which means you can go get food, and I can say that I'm gonna go out and take pictures in the nice sunny day, but I know realistically I'm gonna crawl into bed because I am sleep deprived.
Yep.
Um,
I still feel sick. I'll go to bed and read and I guess watch the Fallout show because I think isn't that out now?
uh, is it actually out? Because I know the reviews hit. I don't know that it actually hit yet. Maybe it did. I guess. I don't know.
Prime Video.
Yeah. I was gonna say I can check the date, but I'd rather be lazy. Um,
I don't see it on my Prime. I guess it is tomorrow.
let's see. I can just easily enough pull up my movie list because this is one of the few series that I made a point of keeping the date for.
Well, it got moved up. Okay, it will be April 10th. Oh
Oh,
no, so
10th?
yeah, that is
I've got
today.
12th, but okay.
Yeah, it got. IGN says April 10th at 9 p.m. Okay,
Ah,
so
okay.
9 p.m. my time. All right. Well, if I'm still awake by then, I might start that.
All right. Well, I'm gonna call that April 11th. Okay. Anyway, so talking about things that happened because there were a few of them. Starting off with something that I would say was kind of brand new hot news this morning. Google is releasing its AI photo editing tools for freezy for all the peoples. No matter whose you are, you get to use it. Now, there's some limits, kind of, ish, but yeah, all of their cool AI photo editing stuff is apparently going to be available to basically anyone with a reasonably modern Android phone and again a reasonably modern iPhone. So
Yeah. So weirdly, Google's blog post didn't have a full list of um, everything that is opening up. 9 to 5 Google got a full list. So according to them, the features that are now free to use is Magic Eraser, Photo Unblur, HDR effect for photos and videos, Portrait Blur, Portrait Light, Color Pop, Sky Suggestions, Cinematic Photos, the styles in the collage editor, and video effects. And on top of that, they're also, it's not free, but they're expanding the availability for Magic Editor, which is the thing that showed up on the Pixel 8 that kind of lets you move objects around or change colors and parts of images. I think it uses generative AI.
it is, yeah. It's basically the stuff Photoshop has, but a little bit, well, more limited and a little bit more targeted in its functionality.
Yeah. So that was only on the Pixel 8. Now it is on all iPhone and Android stuff. If you have a Google One subscription, so I think they just moved that to cloud processing for those people. However, you do get 10 free uses of it per month.
Well, 10 saves.
Yeah, saves. Yeah.
So you can try a bunch of stuff. If you don't like it, then it doesn't count against you.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean that's pretty good. Again, there's a bunch of little catches, like a lot of the features they don't work on phones with 32-bit processors, so older Android phones are out. A lot of them need devices with at least 3 gigs of RAM. A lot of them need either Android 8.0 or above or iOS 15. Also, a lot of the features are like separate downloads, so you need some space for those for the initial download. Again, always makes sense. All these are like little micro AI models that need to be stored somewhere and need kind of reasonably modern hardware. Or you just pay for Google One and you let Google's cloud servers do all that work. So yeah, so that's cool, I guess.
Yeah. And as The Verge notes, this really falls in line with what Google does all the time anyway. Basically roll out a Pixel exclusive, make it a thing just for usually first the Pixel that it launches on, and then somewhere down the line, not too far away, roll it out to the rest of the Pixel line, and then eventually just say, hey, if you're willing to use photos, you'll get it too. And sometimes they've charged for a few things, but by and large, they usually don't keep stuff behind a paywall for super, super long. In this instance, a lot of this stuff is just hopping straight to free.
Yeah, the free thing makes me wonder if part of the motivation here is just that it's AI. Because we've seen a lot of this from Microsoft and a little bit from Google, where I do get the impression that they're being less conscious about server costs with a lot of this stuff because they just want people to use it, so then they can go to investors and be like, look at all the people using our AI tools. Isn't that great? Like at this moment in time, users for this stuff matters maybe more than actually making money. Um, so that's I would assume that's maybe part of the calculus here because it's really what it feels like Microsoft has been doing with Copilot for the last year. So, um, and Diablo said if the Pixel 6 and 7 don't get offline find support on the Android network, that would stink. Or I mean, power it off. Oh yeah, we'll get to the we have the Find My stuff in the list.
Oh yeah, it's actually a little ways down there, but definitely going to talk about that. As a side note, and nobody needs to care about this, but Corbin will probably laugh. Evidently, Imaki is down. Like, down,
Nice.
down.
Cool.
Just got a ping about that. It's amazing how this software just doesn't work. Anyway, so yeah, this is cool stuff. I mean, cheers to Google for rolling out anything like this to be free and just generally kind of pushing it. I agree. I think a lot of this is sort of push it out so that they can brag about larger numbers to investors. You kind of up the stock value by just saying we have X number of people using our AI, and if you can just sort of quietly ball these things together with all the other AI stuff that you're doing, like you can basically say, oh yeah, we have like everybody, even if that's kind of a very weird stretch. Otherwise, it's probably not even costing that much to do this. I don't think
Yeah.
people are really going to pay for this stuff individually. I'm sure some people would, but was was Magic Eraser really going to drag that many new people into using or into subscribing to Google One? I mean, I'm sure it would get some, but I don't think it's going to get that many people. So this is probably fine. I don't think they're really sacrificing a lot of profit here.
Yeah.
So anyway, speaking of companies and their hardware in some capacity, and also AI, let's talk about Microsoft. Microsoft has their Build conference coming up. And yes, I'm kind of sidetracking to that first on the way to our actual topic. But the Microsoft Build conference has been announced. I apologize, I totally forgot the date. But I want
This year.
yeah. I want it, for some reason I have May 15th stuck in my head, but that could be completely wrong. Anyway, so while obviously, and it's so painfully obvious, most of the sessions are focused on AI. However, there is one session that is talking all about Windows on ARM and all the great goodness that's going to come from having the same old Windows running on hardware that we already know it can run on. But that's exciting or something. Anyway, the more special news coming today is Qualcomm is claiming that their upcoming chip, which they previously announced, is still going to beat Apple's current chips. That's the claim. That's the promise.
Yeah. So, as a little bit of a catch up, at some point in the next couple months, we're supposed to see the first retail laptops you can go out and buy with Qualcomm's Snapdragon X Elite chip, which is supposed to be the actual Apple Silicon competition. This is supposed to actually be a powerful laptop ARM chip that will actually be worth using compared to all of the other ARM Windows laptops that Qualcomm have built, which have pretty much just been competing with like low end core i3s and like a lot of the like Pentium Gold stuff. Like they're fine, but there's not like that compelling of a reason to buy them, especially because not only are they not that fast, but a lot of the applications you have an additional performance penalty from emulation because the native software library for ARM on Windows is still pretty abysmal. Um,
I mean, they're
Now,
basically the modern day netbooks.
yeah, well, um, well, now there's a Google Chrome finally has native Windows ARM builds, so that's like one of the bigger ones taken care of now. Because you know, of course, when you buy a Windows computer, you mostly just use Chrome, so that's good. They got that taken care of. Um, Firefox and Edge were already ARM, but no one uses Firefox and no one likes Edge. So Chrome now has ARM builds. The Verge published this today. They were uh, sources that they're citing sources familiar with Microsoft's plans, and they said Microsoft is so confident in these new Qualcomm chips that it's planning a number of demos that will show how these processors will be faster than an M3 MacBook Air for CPU tasks, AI acceleration, and even app emulation. Microsoft claims in internal documents seen by The Verge that these new PCs will have faster app emulation than Rosetta 2. Rosetta 2 being the compatibility layer on M1 and M2 and M3 Macs that lets them run x86 software. Um, so basically, Microsoft is um, supposedly Microsoft is saying that these chips are faster than M3, which would be impressive. I don't have issues believing that the emulation is very good because I've used Windows on ARM in parallels on my MacBook Air, and that is an M1 MacBook Air, and the emulation is pretty good. The compatibility is not as good as Apple Rosetta. Like basically everything works in Apple's Rosetta. Like you don't really have to think about it; it just runs. As long as it's a 64-bit Mac app.
Yes.
So but that was already a limit before Apple Silicon. I'm sure that's part of why that transition happened. So you don't really have to think about it. Microsoft's a little bit more finicky. There's like a couple different degrees of emulation. You can switch between them if something doesn't work. Some games don't like it, but I don't know if that was necessarily the emulation or the fact that I'm running the OS in a virtual machine. But like it's been pretty impressive. I've the most I've stress tested it. It works with a lot of older software. Like I've played Fallout 3 with it on my MacBook Air, and it runs fine, which is impressive if you know Fallout 3, which for a very long time was very picky about the hardware it chose to run on. So it being emulated and not causing too much of a fuss is a little bit impressive. Um, and then
Okay,
I did,
so the thing we need to see happen is someone needs to run a bunch of stuff on this emulation layer with Windows 95 compatibility mode.
yeah, no, I mean I have when I was doing
Of
dev
course you
work for
have.
my yeah, when I was doing dev work for my image share, I was like, what is the oldest web browser I can run in this just because I need like a shitty old browser to test against. And I did have to go looking for what the oldest 32-bit web browser was, because it doesn't do 16-bit. That's too far back. So I did get like an old version of like Netscape running. I think it was like Netscape 6 or something. That's one of the ones where I had to like mess around with it for a little bit, but it did work in the end. And then I have played some Civilization 6 on my MacBook Air, and the performance is fine. And that's really impressive because it's a simulation game, so it's very CPU heavy. Um, and again, that's in a VM. So I'm sure if I was running just in theory, if I was running native Windows on top of that chip, it'd be pretty fast. So
Mm-hmm.
like I don't have any doubts that the emulation layer is impressive because it's taken them a very long time to get it that way. Like when Windows, going back to Windows RT, it had no emulation. That's part of the reason it failed. And then when Microsoft tried again with Windows 10 ARM, it started with, I believe, only 32-bit x86 emulation, and then they added 64-bit later, or that I might have that reversed, but I think it was that. So it's taken them several years, but they have something that works. You might need to fiddle with it a little bit, but it is pretty good. Certainly more extensive than what Apple attempted.
Mm-hmm.
But as Austin ruined the point I was eventually going to get to when I stopped ranting, which is we don't know the power usage, and that's the point. Qualcomm hasn't really talked about that yet. Nothing in this report mentions power usage, and it seems like Microsoft, The Verge is getting at least some of this from like, you know, marketing materials or like presentations that Microsoft is planning. So if they don't have that information, then it means Microsoft probably isn't bragging about it.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm trying to read between the lines here, so that's concerning, because if the power efficiency is not good or comparable to Apple, then what are we doing here? Just use an Intel or AMD chip. We don't.
Well,
Uh,
I'm also going to throw in, and it's not that I think that this is going to be a problem, but you never know. Uh, Heat. I mean, if their thermals aren't good either, then this is a lost cause. Like if you're going to end up getting throttled down all the time, then you may not as well even have any performance.
yeah, like I don't know if I don't know if we've gotten specific models for anything using this chip yet. So it's not clear to me if this is a with Apple Silicon, you have the MacBook Airs that are just passively cooled, um,
Mm-hmm.
and then you also have the MacBook Pros, which have an overlap on the low end. Like there's a MacBook Air with an M3 and a MacBook Pro with an M3, but they run slightly differently because of the fan. So I don't know, what the plans are for active cooling on the first round of Snapdragon X laptops, and how that might affect heat and power efficiency and everything. Um, but I getting a little worried here, Qualcomm. Um, that seems again. That's kind of that's been disappointing. It's been disappointing in the previous Snapdragon laptops where when you read the reviews for them, the battery life wasn't that good. It was just like kind of like a Windows laptop. And again, I'm sure a lot of that was because in normal use, a lot of people were emulating everything. And that's going to be marginally better now, but there's still going to be a lot of that happening.
Yeah.
So, a little bit concerned here, guys.
I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm concerned, but this feels like a lot of bragging. It feels like, as usual, this is gonna be one of those things where it'll come out and fine for a first generation of a product. It's gonna be underwhelming. They're overselling it a little bit. Okay, fine. You can do that. But when reviews hit and all the reviews basically say, yeah, it's it's good, it's a step in the right direction, but it's not where we were hoping it would be. It's just technically it's able to be what they claim, even if maybe it's for a short time period or with a bunch of caveats. Um, but at the end of the day, it very well could be nowhere near as good of a like power to performance ratio as the M3.
Yeah,
Um,
and at that point, like, what is the point?
yeah.
Because if
Well, I mean, the point is for them to have something that does at least that
right,
well.
yeah, like I want competition. I don't want just Intel and AMD making CPUs. It'd be nice if other people tried. Um, but with Windows, it's an issue where the emulation is, again, it's very impressive, but it's not enough. There's always going to be stuff that doesn't work in that. Um, or you're going to have people buying PCs who need, you know, stuff that uses like Windows file, Windows File Explorer extensions, or other things that hook into the system, or drivers that are x86. And there's always going to be outlying stuff that doesn't work on this until it's fully updated. And because it's the Windows ecosystem, there's no telling when that will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's just when you combine like a lot of uncertainty with edge cases with, well, it works about as well as the Windows x86 laptops. Like, I guess I'll just buy the x86 laptops. Like I want, like, we might just very well be back at the same place Qualcomm's stuff is now, where it's like, I guess if you need 5G in a laptop, that tips the scale.
Perhaps.
um but I don't know, I'm getting worried. I need to see that power usage. And again, I'd like to review one of these. I have told our reviews person, when we're, if we're ever offered one of these Snapdragon laptops, I want it. I want to see how bad it is. Let me try it, please. And they said okay, so we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I'll still argue first generation. I'm not expecting to be too amazing. Or rather, I'm not going to hold. I'm not going to hold an. I'm not going to hold their feet to the fire over a first gen or so-called first gen. Um, it's how they, it's how quickly they can evolve that into a second gen that's actually going to be the things that they promise. If they put out a second gen and it doesn't live up to that expectation, then I think there's a problem. If a first gen is
I
maybe, you know, a little over promise, under deliver, okay, fine. But they have to get their act together for the second.
I know this is like a big, like, I don't see this as a first gen thing. This is third or fourth attempt at a
That's fair.
Windows laptop. So
Well,
when I
they
when
are
you
scaling
kept,
up pretty significantly.
yeah,
So
I mean, it is very different. So like, I sure, but every time you said first gen, just like ringing in the back of my head was like every time Google was like, "Oh, we're just a new phone OEM."
yeah,
every year. Oh,
yeah,
we're just the new guy. We can't be expected to sell that many phones. We've only been selling Android phones since 2011, guys. Get off our
yeah,
back.
yeah. I won't deny you that one. Um, so I don't know. The other part of this is the fact that they're claiming that this beats the M3, and previously they claimed it was beating the M2, and they kind of hinted that they thought it was going to beat the M3 because the M3 wasn't out yet. Now, are they actually going to get this out before there's an M4? I
Yeah, and also like that point in itself, like it doesn't really tell me anything because it's like, okay, what you're saying is that you've developed something that beats Apple's entry level mobile chip that is designed to operate at a specific price to performance ratio. And Apple has already done that. It's called the M3 Pro and Max and whatever else the other words are. I don't remember.
Ultra.
So, so yeah. So, are you telling me that this is more power hungry than that? Because it's faster, or like that on itself like doesn't really tell me a lot. It just tells me you've done better than your previous attempt because your previous attempts were really bad.
Yeah.
So like that's good, but also again still makes me worry. Like, okay, something that's more powerful than an M3, with probably without the same power optimization, probably going to use a decent amount more power than that chip, which already is like a little bit. That's already teetering on um, like being passively cooled, really, with a lot of the reviews and other articles that were coming out about like the M3 MacBook Air, about how it does kind of thermal throttle quickly if you're like actually trying to push it. Um, so I don't know, Qualcomm. You're making me worry. Um, again, I like competition. I'd like, again, Windows on ARM, like in terms of software, is pretty good at this point. I think probably about as good as can be expected for the Windows ecosystem in the state it's in and has to be in because of other external factors. But I need Qualcomm to try. Also, where's MediaTek? Because they were also supposed to be making Windows ARM chips about now, I think, and I haven't heard a single thing from them. And yeah,
Uh, that's one of those companies where sort of just don't expect them to. I expect we're going to find out in a couple of years. Oh, they've actually been making and releasing these chips for a while now. They just never talk about it.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure they're probably looking at. I I'm sure if they release something now, it would probably be in the same segment Qualcomm has been in, where it's like, great, you made a Pentium Gold drop-in replacement, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, good job, guys. Like, I sure, you know. So, yeah, I need performance per watt numbers here, guys. Um, do you feel like talking about that yet? No.
They do
Okay,
not.
they do not. We'll have to wait and see.
Uh, but speaking of things to wait and see for, Corbin is currently waiting to see about the Meta Quest update, which is going to bring a couple of much wanted features, a couple of specific improvements. So, um, there's technically a few things on the list. I'll paste a link into chat for that. Um, but the biggest one, in I think my opinion at least, is this brings the laying down capability. So you can lay on your back looking up and get your sort of in front of you view instead of just being a virtual person staring straight up.
Yeah. So, Meta announced the Quest version 64 update. That is one of the changes. Is it has a lying down mode, which is in this update. It's coming to the Quest 3. It came to the Quest 2 in the last update. I don't. Again, I haven't been able to try this because I don't have the update yet on my 3. But my understanding is that it basically just sort of shifts all the UI to being above instead of in front of you, because right now if I try to watch like a movie in bed, I've got my Quest on, I'm laying down. There will sometimes be like, if I open the main system menu or something, it'll try to put it at like my eye level, but because I'm laying down, it'll sort of like physically be like where my like legs are. So I need to it's because it's trying to put it at like sort of halfway where my eyes are. So the result is I have to like sort of reach like into like I'm pointing like at my bed to like click something. It's a little janky. So yeah, there's the actual laying down mode to hopefully fix that.
Awesome,
And
putting Corbin on blast.
are we corn mode?
What sounds like corn?
Oh no, watching. I was putting pirated movies on my Quest to watch in bed. Thank you very much. Yeah,
Pirated
I
movies
watched
from what site?
from the website that I get pirated movies from. I watched RoboCop 2
Pornhub.
because I've been meaning to watch that. Pretty bad, but it was cool in the Quest virtual theater app I bought. So, yeah, so that's the thing. I've not tried it yet. The main thing they were talking about here was the pass-through improvements. So they say that with version 64, we've made a number of improvements to pass-through on the Quest 3. Pass-through is now higher fidelity than before and better at adjusting color, exposure, contrast, and dynamic range to match your real-world surroundings. So they talk about how this should make it easier to like use other screens, like check your phone in the pass-through mode and adjust to other color changes. And that's something that the Quest 3 right now, in my experience, has been like acceptable at. Like I can read my phone screen. It's not great, but like I can see it. So it's supposed to be better now. And again, this is, kind of nice. This is without any hardware changes. This is just an update to the existing Quest 3 that's out. I'm sure whatever headset they make next will be a lot better at this because Apple's now raised that bar. So yeah, it's pretty good. There's no pass-through improvements for the Quest 2 though, which is far more limited with the pass-through because it's cheaper. So on the Quest 3, you get like full color pass-through at like an okay resolution. On the Quest 2, it's basically just like Terminator vision. it's monochrome and it's really low res, and you cannot see any, like, you're not reading your phone screen through that. You're just not. You got to take the headset off.
Well, you're just talking about Arnold's Terminator. Later models, man, they got some upgrades.
Yeah, it's the T2. Although it's grainy black and white. Well, okay, so I guess it'd be more Predator vision, maybe. one of those movies. So that's cool. Again, I want to try this, but I checked my Quest 3 before we went live, and I still don't have the update. And then the last thing is they are starting to test external microphone support on the Quest 3, so you can plug in a USB-C mic and use that, which I don't know how necessary that is because the Quest 3 mic's pretty good. Just the one that's built into the headset.
Yeah, but imagine how good it could be.
Yeah, I know some people. I was talking to one person about this. I don't know. I think they have a Quest Pro, not a Quest 3, and the issue they were telling me was that their breath gets picked up a lot by the Quest Pro's microphone. So they use a nice, thank you, Mac. They use a external lapel mic for that reason, but I don't think the Quest 3 has that issue, and this is only for the Quest 3 so far. So not too sure on the utility right here, but hopefully it comes to just all of them eventually. Um, I don't know. The Quest 3 USB stuff is kind of weird because it is Android based. So you'd expect it would work with a lot of stuff, but I guess, have not like fully routed everything or test everything. Like I know, um, I I think I saw USB Ethernet adapters used to work with Quest headsets over USB, and then it stopped working at some point. And that was previously a pretty good option for um, like just lower latency connections and that kind of thing. So I guess we'll see. But yeah, Quest updates still going, making it marginally more like a Vision Pro. Still waiting on. They said there's like a bigger UI rework coming soon at some point. I don't know if the goal there will be to get closer to kind of what Apple has established. Because if you look at the Quest, kind of how it works is you get a little floaty window, and you can put up to 3 apps in your little floating thing, and that's it. Versus what Apple's tried to done is like actually use your whole environment, and you put yeah, I can put a Safari on my wall over there, and it stays there, and I can put another app somewhere else, another app somewhere else, and I can move them around, and the Quest doesn't do anything like that. So I don't know if they're going to try something like that, or maybe just more than 3 things at once. We'll see. At a minimum, I would like the ability to pin an app to my face, because there have been times where I'd like to watch something while I'm like cleaning my apartment, and it's very silly to like have to grab the window, like I've got like a pet on a leash or something, like, all right, come on, we gotta go now. You're coming with me.
Grabbing it and moving it with you each time does seem like the wrong way to use it, but
yeah,
I get it. So I don't really have anything to add to this outside of the fact that this makes it slightly more interesting to me, but I'm still not going to get I'm not going to get any Quest. Like, sorry, but Zuck is on my entity list. I do not support in this household.
We'll do the RambleCast in VR chat at some point. It'll happen.
If you'd like to see this happen, all you have to do is fund a Apple Vision Pro for me.
Not on there. No. You can get a Zuck helmet, or I think there's like some other standalone Android-based thing that VR chat runs on, but I forget what it's called. It's not the. I think there's the HTC one, and then there's like one other one, but they're both bad.
Well,
yeah, Cody and I will both have furry avatars, of course.
Wait, what? Mm-hmm. I don't think I agreed to this. Oh, all right. Anyway, so speaking of companies doing things, but taking a turn to the dark side, and Corbin, I know you weren't interested in this one, but so we'll keep it quick. But Roku is rumored to be, well, not rumored. They're tinkering with the idea of showing ads on Roku TVs for basically any of your HDMI inputs. So For those that don't know, Roku started showing ads in their interface quite a while back. That's not a new thing. What they're looking at doing now, though, is on Roku TVs. By the way, this all comes from a patent. Let me put that up front. So this may not ever happen. It may just be an idea that they decided to patent because why not? But at the same time, I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say, yeah, if this feels like something they would actually just do. Anyway, the idea is that on a Roku TV, which of course Roku would own the software experience on this. This isn't something that's just going to happen if you get a Roku box. But on a Roku TV, they would basically look at whatever is currently playing and decide, or not playing, but whatever screen you're on, if they decide that it is stationary for long enough and doesn't meet some threshold of activity, then they might just start showing you ads. Now, I find this to be, one, kind of just disgusting in a lot of ways. Yeah, because you don't know what's going on with the other screen. You don't know why someone might be sitting on it. And I'm assuming that they're not going to actually, like, subsidize lower cost TVs or monitors for people. That would be the right thing to do if you're going to show ads, but I have a feeling Roku just wants to keep selling everything at regular price and then also make money off the ads. But I also think about, like, some of the bad sides of this. For example, if you start playing an ad to a room where no one's sitting in, like, I'm sure Roku doesn't care. They're perfectly happy just to take the money from the advertiser. But yeah, what happens if an advertiser realizes, oh, like 80% of the people you tried to show this ad to weren't even in the room? So, potentially bad news there. And I also think about just how crappy of an experience this could be, and even possibly how it could go completely haywire. So just in thinking about this subject, one of the things that popped into my head, and I know that this is going to sound ridiculous, but it actually feels incredibly likely. I'm picturing a future headline. Like, wake for dead son ruined by Roku ads. I'm just picturing, like, there's going to be some situation where somebody uses a TV to, like, show pictures that are important or something like that, and if it sits there for too long, all of a sudden you get an ad for something. Like, the possibilities of this just being such a dumb, bad press sort of thing, honestly, like, I think Roku would be nuts for doing this. Plus, look, I'll just say it this way. I have no had no animosity towards Roku prior to this. I wasn't interested in getting one of their TVs, but I wouldn't have, like, explicitly said no to it either. Now, the mere fact that they have filed this patent makes me think, yeah, I think I'm going to stick with my practice of not getting Roku TVs. Because it just feels like such in poor taste to be exploring this path.
Yeah, I mean, I have a personal rule where I ignore software patents just because they mean literally, like, all they mean is that a company thought of something. That's it. That's quite literally it. So I get irrationally angry every time I see someone every time I see someone share a link to an article and the site is like, Apple's making a iPhone with 5 screens as proven by the software patent. It's like, no, that's not how any of this works, guys. Now,
Yeah, I'm
in
gonna.
fairness, this
Wait,
hold on.
okay.
Now this is again a little bit different in that this is just a natural progression of where this has been going. So I don't feel like super angry about this in terms of like people making shit up. Um, I do think that I don't know. I know smart TV companies have already tried to do like analysis on what is being shown on the screen, regardless of the current input. I
Hmm.
think I forget who was doing that, but I know it was happening.
Oh yeah,
Um,
at least 3 or 4 of them are doing this just
yeah,
actively now, or
yeah,
they have some sort of opt-in, opt-out process. But yeah, it's happening.
yeah. So this is just another progression of that. So for that reason, I'm pretty sure they'll try it at some point. I guess it's just normal capitalism things where this will continue to get worse and worse until there's actual laws preventing something. Um, there's no more competition here because you really can't buy a not smart TV anymore.
Hmm.
The only options are you buy a really big computer monitor, and even some of those computer monitors are functionally smart TVs. That's what Samsung has been selling a lot of the past couple of years is their smart display series that literally have the same operating system as the smart TVs. Um, so, yep,
Yeah. So, and I'm with you. I generally look at patents. I generally look at most patents and think, okay, this is a company that's trying to set itself up for possibly being a future patent troll, or they're doing it in case they think they can make money off of it. Every once in a while, and this is rare, but every once in a while, and this even could be one of those, though. Let's be honest, it's not. Every once in a while, a company will patent something, not so that they can do it, but so that they can prevent others from doing it. It does happen. No one does that, but it wouldn't technically be a first. Also, let's be honest, Roku definitely wants to do this. Um so yeah, and don't forget, it does still cost a lot of money to get a patent. Like, it, in the grand scheme of things, it's trivial to a company like Roku, but they're not free. They're not even cheap. So yeah, I feel like they probably have enough skin in the game that we're seeing a company that I think is I think they're anticipating like what Google might do with Android TV. And maybe they just want the money for being able to sue for that. Maybe they want to use it to bully Android TV. Uh or any one of a few other possibilities, but ultimately, yeah, I truth be told, I really just think Roku is looking at doing this because it's an easy thing to do. It really doesn't actually have particularly high challenge factor. So we'll see, but I'm not holding my hopes for an optimistic outcome with Roku. Um, yeah, pretty much that. Let's see. So moving on.
yep.
Okay, well, then let's talk. Actually, I'll hand the rant stick back to you because Apple's emulation policy is all kinds of weird. But the quick setup starting point ever since the EU's implementation of the new DMA policies, um, Apple has had to relax a few things. Most of their rule changes were to the App Store in the EU, but they did decide to make game emulation, or emulators in general, available worldwide. So that sounded like a really good thing, but now people are looking at the fine details and questioning exactly what does this mean. And now I hand it to you.
Yeah, so emulators are technically legal now, just like comedy is legal on Twitter. And you but it's not entirely clear to what extent. So there's not really any clear language on emulators in terms of being something that the user can define. So this might just be for, you know, the kinds of games that we see on consoles a lot, where it's like a collection of retro games packaged in a nice emulator.
Yeah, if you
That might,
pre-package it and you're just using the emulator to be able to run the things that you included without
yeah,
without pre-porting that to the Apple platform.
right. So is this for a user definable Game Boy emulator for iPhone, or is this just for Sega when they want to make a like Sonic collection game on iPhone? Don't really know yet. Um, the other big sticking point is it doesn't seem like just in time emulation is allowed. That's something that Apple has been a stickler on for the almost the entirety of the App Store's existence. That's their stated reason why uh, third party browser rendering engines are not allowed. Um, and that also has prevented some other app categories from showing up on iPhone. So you can do a lot of emulators that don't need that, but that would block more recent platforms or more demanding platforms from really working all that well. So, you know, you could have an NES emulator on iPhone or Game Boy or, you know, I don't know, maybe N64, but something like Dolphin for Wii or GameCube, that's going to be real rough without GIT or you know, there's UTM, which is a sort of wraparound Kemu. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that. The cross-platform emulator. It's available on Mac and the Alt Store on iPhone and iPad. Um, that would ideally need that. So a lot of questions right now, and not really any answers yet. The developer behind PPSSPP, the PSP emulator, has said they're gonna try to submit something to Apple. So we'll eventually find out what this means. But yeah, so that's where we're at right now. Emulators are technically legal, but we don't exactly know what that means.
Yeah, and yet again, we're back to that sort of square one where it's going to take somebody submitting like regular emulators before we see this one play out. And so far no one has done that, but or I don't know if anyone's done that. Maybe someone has. But regardless, yeah, until the proof actually comes and slaps everyone in the face, we don't know that that's going to happen yet. So anyway, let's see. Yes. Sorry. Almost forgot what my transition on this was. So we've been waiting for Apple to quote unquote legalize emulators for ages, but we've also been waiting for Google to do something for ages. Oh yeah, you know it's coming. It's the Find My Device network. It's actually here. It happened. Google finally, the F word, finally launched the infamous Find My network, which we've known this is coming for how long? Like, this is something that's been rumored for years. Google even announced it, what, middle of last year, like officially? And yeah, we've been waiting a long time for this. And it happened. So, right now, it basically does kind of what we already had. You can find your phones. You can find certain devices that might also be compatible with the network. And I don't think we're really going to dive any deeper than saying this, but the Pixel 8 and 8 Pro will also support being found even when the power is off. So, you know, these are nice things that help you find your phone, a tablet, possibly a few other things. But for the most part, I mean, we already kind of had this. Like, the old Find My service basically did all of this stuff for us. So I feel like there's not a lot of change in this particular aspect. Where the changes do happen is trackers are coming, for one. So something just like an AirTag. That's right now, the two companies that are going to be launching these are Chipolo and Pebblebee. For reference, I have, in theory at least, I expect to have Chipolo review samples coming to me shortly. So I will have things to say about these, hopefully. Let's see. Plus, in the course of launching this, we also now get warnings about being tracked. So if an AirTag is sort of following you around and it seems to actually be stalking you, our phones will let us know. Hopefully.
Yeah, Google. I'll put this in the YouTube chat. Google also put a post on their security blog, kind of talking a little bit more about the supposed security and privacy being equipped here, and you know they talk about it's a lot of the same stuff that Apple was doing. So I kind of read this and I was like, all right, great job, guys. You did what Apple did 3 years ago, and not appreciably better or less good at stalking. So I don't know what we're doing here, but that's okay. They talk about how the location data is in and encrypted. That's good. One thing that I think is different from what Apple does is you will not get if you have a tracker on something and you leave it like in public, you will not get an updated ping on that if one person walks by it. It has to be several, which is interesting. So they talk about that being just a little bit more private, and also taking advantage of the fact that there's a lot of Android devices. So you don't really have to worry about like one person walking by and that not activating it. But
I am picturing so many scenarios of stuff getting lost, like kind of in rural areas, and people going, why do I have a tracker to find this stuff if it's not going to work?
I think it might be Let me see. All right, so this is actually where they say it. This is a first of its kind safety protection that makes unwanted tracking to a private location like your home more difficult. By default, Find My Network requires multiple nearby Android devices to detect a tag before reporting its location to the tag owner. Our research found that the Find My device network is most valuable in public settings where there are likely many devices nearby. By implementing aggregation before showing a tag's location to its owner, the network can take advantage of its biggest strength. Over a billion Android devices can participate. So, yeah, they are prioritizing. They're prioritizing performance in more public areas and, in theory, less tracking or stalking, but I don't actually know,
I think
how well that.
the
I
double
don't
irony
know.
of that is the places where you normally would be using a tracker like this to stalk somebody are actually those places in public. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Some of this
I
is
mean
feeling.
it could be a lot, and also like you could track someone to, like, if I'm thinking like if someone stuck an air tag on my back and I, you know, go about my day and then go home. In theory, the people living above me could be enough to count as aggregation if, like, I don't know, maybe there's two or three people living above me and they have Android phones. Is that enough? I don't know. um but they also mention some of their other protections here. If a user has chosen to save their home address in their Google account, their Android device will ensure that it does not contribute crowdsourced location reports to the Find My device network when it is near the user's home. So, I guess your other people's trackers will not update at your home, I think is what they're saying there. It's a little bit confusing, and I'm sure they're being a little bit confusing. So, it's not as obvious how to work around these if I want to be a
Right.
stalker. So, yeah, Apple does the same thing. Like, Apple will not tell you, Apple won't tell you exactly how long it is for the AirTag to start beeping when it's, been away from its owner for long enough. So, of course, if you're motivated, you can rip out the speaker, I'm told.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, which I considered doing, but not because I'm stalking someone, but because I had an AirTag on my dog's collar, and I know for a fact that if it started beeping, she would flip the fuck out.
Yeah.
Um, Thankfully, she never ran off or anything, so that's fine. But um, it does more or less functionally work the same as AirTags, which isn't great because AirTags are getting used a lot for that bad stuff. And the one thing that they've worked together with Apple with is cross integration for it's only for stalking protection. So if someone sticks an AirTag on you and you have a Pixel, you will eventually get an alert on your Pixel that says, "Hey, there's a tracker moving with you. You might want to go find that." It does not work for just normal tracking for non-lost objects. So if I buy a tracker for my water bottle uh, and I lose it and I have an iPhone, I'm not going to get last known location data from people reporting it from their Android devices walking by. That's not cross compatible. So Android owners are still not really going to get like that data from Apple where they're moving everything around. But in theory, there's a lot more Android devices than iPhones. So in theory, you should still get pretty good data out of it, like something comparable to an AirTag. It's gonna still depend on how many people are around an area. It's gonna depend on um, you know, the availability of Android devices around a certain location.
So I'm going to kind of build on that and point out the caveat that
And there are tags that are going to support both. Like I think the Pebble Bee one is going to support both Apple and Google's network, but that just means that like they get pinged on both of those networks. That does not mean that like let
well, you're basically saying it's two tags built into one.
yeah, it is functionally like you have an Apple AirTag and a Google tag glued together.
Mm-hmm.
Like their location is going to be updated in those networks, but there's no syncing going on anywhere in this process. So if you have an Android device and you're trying to use it with Google's Find My Stuff, you're not going to get updates on where your lost water bottle is if someone with an iPhone walks past it.
So, for one, what Carson says is right. Currently, Apple holds a fairly sizable lead in the U.S. Not overwhelmingly so. We're definitely like nowhere near a critical mass situation, but yeah, Apple definitely has a lead over the combined other Android phones. The second thing I would point out is I think it matters more than people are giving credit for which like area you're in, because some areas are just overwhelmingly Android and other areas are overwhelmingly iPhone. Like if you go to any rich neighborhood in like upstate New York or something like that, forget it. It's 100% iPhones. You're not going to find an Android phone floating around. And similar things can be said with like a lot of areas around like Hollywood and anything like that. Meanwhile, I've mentioned this before, it's less true now, but if you take a look at the phones that people have around my area, it, at least for many years, you wouldn't find iPhones. Like they were rare. I mean, people were buying them. I knew people who worked at the carrier stores who said, "Oh yeah, iPhones sell great." But if you actually took a look around at like a lot of public spaces, you didn't see the iPhones. You saw tons and tons of Android phones. So, it's obviously going to vary a bit. And if we listen to what everyone typically says, let's be honest, there's not a lot of Android phones in schools. So, yeah.
There's I'm sure
that's
I'm
the
sure
narrative.
all of them want there to be only iPhones, but unfortunately some children just have to use the Motorola phones.
You poor bastards. Your childhood has been robbed from you.
Someone's got to use the Moto G. It's not going to be me. So
yeah.
It's going to have to be that.
So yeah,
that might be child abuse. Don't make kids use Motorola phones.
Yeah. But yes, financial stability is still kind of an objective factor in this. So, things to remember.
So Carson said, I read that it's locked to a single network at a time, and to switch from Google to Apple's, you have to hard reset the tag. That's insane if that's true. That's crazy. Because it's literally just a Bluetooth beacon. It should be able to do both.
Then maybe the thing to do is just get an AirTag and get a
glue them. Yeah. No, I mean that's what I considered doing with my dog for a while. I was like, should I, get an AirTag and a tile or whatever, and just put both of them on the collar. But yeah,
Diablo, yeah, I'm not gonna say that I fully agree, because I can see why Apple wouldn't want to do it, and to an extent I can kind of see why Google wouldn't want to combine. Like, honestly, Google's going to be the loser in this situation one way or the other, because at a bare minimum, they're going to have to take on all the network traffic and added complaints that are going to come from Android users who suddenly have tons and tons more data traveling through their network. So I can kind of see why,
I mean,
that might not be ideal.
Yeah, it comes down to like both of these networks have a lot of data about people's tracking movements. So,
oh boy, do they.
Normally, we don't want companies sharing that. That usually doesn't end well for us.
Normally.
Yeah.
No.
I had to go through this after I bought like 5 tile trackers, and then tile got bought by some really shady company. I was like, great. Rip, all the batteries are coming out of those. They will never be powered on again. Those tiles are still in my in my closet somewhere. Pretty sad.
Sad, very sad. The saddest.
Yep.
Yeah, so I want to commend this. I feel like it's a good thing, but I feel like at the same time we've already seen 1 or 2 shoes drop, and I kind of think there's going to be a lot more. I don't know. Maybe I'm being overly cynical, but
I mean, like the tracking stuff is like at least 10% of the reason why I ended up trying an iPhone, just because like, yeah, that's something I want like at the time for my dog and also other stuff. And the only thing in the Android ecosystem was stuff like Tile, which is only functionally useful if you are around the thing already. Like if it's in your proximity, like it had no, if I put a tile on a bag of mine, or tile was like the odd one out because they actually did have an okay ecosystem for a while. But like if it was any of the other trackers, and I lost my bag, I had it in a bag and I lost it in public or something, that's just gone now. I'm never going to see that again. So like I do think this is good. Unfortunately, is one of those pieces of technology that I don't know if you can meaningfully fully protect it from being used for bad things. I think Apple absolutely did not try hard enough initially. The very half-baked solution they made for checking for surrounding AirTags if you have an Android phone was completely embarrassing. They did not handle that well whatsoever. So this is better. I think probably the sticking point here is Apple at least sort of has, well, I can't even say that anymore because Apple's both of these are open to third-party devices, so you can't even do like what Apple tries to do with its own AirTags, where like, has some hardware-based like beeps and stuff it will do to try to not be used for stalking people. But both of these networks are supposed to be used by third-party devices that maybe won't have any protections at the hardware level. So, it's not good. There's more they can do here, but also it's just one of those cases where making a technology really accessible sort of has that effect. Sort of in the same vein as like, end-to-end encryption and that kind of stuff, where like it's useful, but yeah, also some people using it for really bad stuff. And also ultimately, like most of this could already happen. It's just much cheaper to do now. So you could already get like an LTE based tracker and stick it on someone.
Yeah.
This is just cheaper.
Well, honestly,
Because
if
I
you
know
can
that
just
because
stash your phone in
yeah,
someone's car or something like that, you've always been able to track your phone way like as well or better than this.
yeah,
So, you've had options.
yeah. I mean, that's what I was looking at again for my dog. I was like, yeah, there's a lot of like pet collars that have little LT radios in them, but I have to remember to charge them.
Mm-hmm.
So AirTag it is, Daisy.
So, yeah. Again, like I said, I'm glad that Google is launching the network. I think it's long overdue. Um, all the safety restrictions being put on it, I worry that some of them might be overreactions. Not by huge amounts, but just in general, slightly overreactive. Um, but we'll see. I don't want to write it off too much yet, but I just don't know.
Yeah, I'm also interested to know like what ends up being all the endpoints for this because they talk about in these blog posts they talk about like Nest devices also being able to pick up um Find My Network stuff, but I would assume that's only for your own stuff. Because they also talk about like your other people's trackers are not supposed to be able to be picked up in like your home. So I would assume like if I have a Nest speaker in my home, it's only going to be used to like ping a tracker somewhere else in my home and make noise so I can know where my keys are. Now I wonder if I don't know if they said like are Chromebooks an endpoint for this? Have they got that hooked up yet?
I don't remember hearing it mentioned, but if they aren't yet, I imagine somewhere in the not too distant
Yeah.
future they will be.
See, that's how you get the Android network working at schools. Every Chromebook will help you find your keys.
Wow.
They just
wow.
light up. They just light up like the towers in Lord of the Rings, helping you find your keys.
Oh, jeez. So,
or Mulan.
that sorry, I think I've told this story before, but and it's not even really related, but I immediately remembered it. There was this time when I was in college. I walked over to someone's room. We were all living in the residence hall. I walked over to a friend's room, and went in, and he's like, "Hey, bad timing. I got to take off, but I can't find my keys anywhere. I don't know where my keys are." And for no reason at all, I don't know why. Like, I stood there for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 seconds. I just turn, walk straight to his refrigerator, open the door, and just pick up the keys straight out of there, as if I knew exactly where they were. And to this day, never figured out why, but just instinctively I knew, like, I guarantee that's where they are. Like, it.
You heard the beep coming from the fridge. The lost beep.
But yeah, I don't know. Just weird things that you just happen to do right. Anyway.
So they mentioned that. Yeah, I wouldn't expect Wear OS to be like a tracking endpoint because that's not going to have a constant network connection. But I would think that Wear OS watches would show up as something that can be detected by other devices because they're already in Find My device.
Yeah, they're already part of Find My network as regular Android devices. The thing is, I don't think any of them have like the Pixel 8's ability to still broadcast when the battery's basically dead. So I don't think they have that.
Yeah, so they might only be reporting to the connected Bluetooth device.
But that doesn't mean that this can't show up in,
Yeah.
Then in like the Pixel Watch 3. It could. And just as a side thought, and I've been saying this for ages, I can't wait until there are other devices that you can do this with. Like, my mom frequently loses her glasses. It'd be kind of great if she had a way of finding them. And there's so many other. Granted, glasses are kind of a bad form factor for this, but I want to see other
You
things.
just stick an AirTag over one of the glasses.
That'd be a fun eye patch.
Here we go. Yeah, you can find your glasses now. Also, you are a pirate now. Hard.
International Talk Like a Pirate Day gets a lot more interesting. But yeah, this the thing is, this is launching literally this week. I'm sure there's going to be so much added to it in time. Like this, I don't know that this is ever going to become huge. I don't know that it's going to get the same sort of like effect that AirTags did, but it's going to be popular enough, and it's going to be enduring, I think. So,
yeah, and I'll put my my most useful tag now that I don't have one on my pet is, put this in the YouTube chat, putting a Bluetooth tracker in your car. And not because someone might steal your car, because it's probably not going to be that helpful in that case, but it will actually be a way for you to find your car in the big parking lots, as long as it's not a parking deck, because they don't understand vertical. But other places, it's been very useful for that for me.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you right now that is not the best use of putting it into a car. I mean, that is a use, and it is a good one. I fully agree that is a perfectly valid use, but it's not the best one. The best one is to match pace with somebody else who's driving down the freeway and freak them the F out when they get notifications saying that they're being tracked.
Oh, that's mean.
And it's totally something people are going to do. Hell,
Make sure you stick it on the catalytic converter.
I mean, at this point, I kind of want to do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, once this reaches enough ubiquity, I have a funny feeling that's going to become like the new prank, is convincing people that they're being followed.
That's good. But yeah, I like the one in my car. It was good when I went to Disney World, which has just the largest parking lots I've ever seen in my life. And I didn't have to worry, like, did my phone try to do the thing remember where I parked, but it's never exactly right? It's like, nope, don't even have to worry about it. It's just wherever the tag is where my car is.
Yep.
Go to the tag.
And Austin, believe me, I remember that too. Google Now did the parking lot thing so well.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It was never like precise. It goofed up on location often, but at least it got you within, like, 2 or 3 rows of your car. It got pretty good positioning. Yeah.
The automatic ones are good, but yeah, there's always the chance that something can go wrong. I think how Apple does it is they try to use if your Bluetooth connected to your car, it's wherever you are when you disconnect. That's how it tries to do it. But again, maybe you don't use the Bluetooth once, and you're like, shit, where did I park?
I'm assuming it had some failover fallback strategies. I guess there's no certainty to that, but it would make sense.
Yeah. But I mean, Google Now should come back for like 20 other reasons.
Oh yes.
I think about Google Now at least once a month, and I'm like, man, that was pretty good. We didn't know we had it that good.
Yeah, it's so much better than what there is now.
What's that quote? Like, I wish there was a way to know you were in the good old days before they're over. That's how I feel about Google now.
Yeah.
Like, man, that was just a really nice feature that just slowly died in like the course of a year.
And slow, man, it really was slow. They drug that out. But anyway. So do we have anywhere else to go on this? Anywhere else you wanted to go?
Nope.
Okay. Well, for the last topic, and you said you had some things you wanted to say about this. Beeper was just acquired by Automatic. You know, the company behind the WordPress and the Tumblr. Actually, well, they bought Tumblr, but you get the idea. Also, who was the other company that they did? I don't remember.
Pocket Cast. You might be thinking of.
Oh yeah. That's right. They also bought Pocket Cast. So yeah, the company that buys all those other companies, they bought Beeper. And for those that don't remember, Beeper was that company that did the whole, hey, we reverse engineered Apple's stuff. Well, actually, they hired someone who did that. And there was a cat and mouse game between Apple and Beeper. Eventually, Beeper gave up. So, yeah, this is these two companies coming together into a perfect fusion of wonderful messaging goodness. Or at least that's what the marketing copy says.
Yeah, so without iMessage, Beeper is basically just it's a front end for a bunch of different chat services. So I think it does like Facebook Messenger and Instagram and Discord. And I think their stated goal was to eventually pivot people to just using Beeper's own internal messaging service, which I think is Matrix. But yeah, I don't have like super strong feelings on this. I've not ever used Beeper. And I generally don't feel great about Automatic these days. They kind of now have a history of buying things and then eventually realizing that they're not profitable, and then they just kind of, they don't kill it, they just leave it there.
Yeah.
So they famously bought Tumblr, and they tried really hard to find ways to make Tumblr profitable.
Did they try that hard?
They tried kind of hard. They tried. And
I feel like that was one of them where I swear they threw like 2 darts, both missed, and it's like, oh well, can't say we didn't try. Let's go.
I'm not a super hardcore Tumblr user, so I didn't pay that close attention. I know they tried like an ad-free subscription. I think they tried something else, but they came to the same conclusion that, like, you know, Verizon did before they sold them off of, like, yeah, we can't make any money from this. So
but yeah, because everyone banned porn.
Yeah, so Tumblr's in maintenance mode now. They bought Pocket Cast, and Pocket Cast is kind of just there, but like that's like not that bad, because it's like it's a podcast app. It doesn't necessarily need like rapid ongoing development, but it would still be nice if it got something every once in a while. And of course, Automatic just went through. They were. I don't remember if they confirmed it, but there was the report, and I think The Verge, where they were going to start using user data for AI training. So like a lot of Tumblr posts, a lot of other data. That wasn't great. So not really feeling that great about Automatic these days. WordPress is still fine, but that's also because a lot of companies contribute to WordPress, so it's not entirely resting on Automatic to do something there. They're kind of just the maintainers, and they've not fucked that part up
Yet.
yeah. Well, a lot of people didn't like the new editor, but that's okay. You can there's workarounds for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the company in particular either. I don't really have anything strictly against them. I feel very ambivalent towards Automatic in general. It's one of those companies I almost forget exists. So, yeah. It doesn't give me the strongest feelings about this.
They're like somewhat in the same circle in my head as like Mozilla, where I think they just try to do too much and they realize something doesn't work and then they move on to another thing that will probably not work either. But yeah, so Diablo said any acquisition, I just feel uneasy. Yeah, that's capitalism.
Yeah.
Working as it should. Got to keep biggering.
Yeah, we've been trained pretty well to not trust capitalism.
Yeah, which is why I'm acquiring Cody's YouTube channel for an undisclosed sum, and nothing will change. Cody will not be paid anything.
Yeah,
but
really nothing changing.
Mm-hmm.
And Corbin will be obligated to travel here to perform the official and legally required handshake. So
no, I'm being replaced by an AI. That's the main change. Yeah.
Already were, bro. Already were.
Wow.
Owen Wowson. Anyway, yeah. So capitalism. It's a beast. I gotta say that even though they're acquiring Beeper, I don't feel particularly compelled to go start trying to use Beeper. I think that's really the struggle that they're gonna run into is if people aren't already using it. I'm not sure how they're gonna get people onto it. And even if they do, how are they going to make this profitable? This feels like maybe an acquisition that happened more for the sake of being able to say that they own some of these properties without necessarily, benefiting from them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I take it you have nothing left to say on this? Okay.
Nope.
Well, fun fact, neither do I. And at this stage, I'm not going to lie, this office is getting warm, and that combined with my sleep deprivation has made me really, really drowsy. And I'm going to go sleep. And luckily that was our last topic of the night anyway. So, well, let's start with the obvious. Thank you, Corbin, for coming by and hanging out. Is there anything you would like to pitch, post, suggest, talk about, or otherwise consume a minute with?
I
love how he has to think about it.
No, not really.
He knew this moment was coming, and he's like,
I've been
I got nothing.
sick for most of the past week, so I've not actually done anything to share.
You're that meme that you linked earlier.
Can I? Yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to extreme flu symptoms. Again, don't know what I had. I got a COVID test. It said I didn't have COVID. I don't know. I don't think it was COVID, but it really fucked me up. Still a little fucked up.
It's the long COVID.
I sure hope not.
Yeah, no, that stuff, bad times. Anyway, well, and okay, with that, thanks to everyone for coming by, hanging out, being part of the conversation, chatting with us, chatting with each other. I will be back this weekend with some game streams. You guys know the routine. Fair odds, I admit I haven't checked the weather, but I'm gonna say fair odds I will probably be a little bit later of a start each night, just because I'll very likely be out shooting photos in the midday and afternoon, and then getting back when I get back. And of course, huge thanks to those who support the channel: David, Diablo, Austin, Carson, and Curvy Mermaid. And if you would like to support the channel, if you're hearing this right now and you're thinking, how can I get my name on that list? There are links down below in the description to Cash App, Patreon, and Streamlabs. Or if you're feeling really squirrely, go look at my Amazon wish list, and I don't know, there's stuff in there. I probably need to clean that up a little bit, but there's stuff in there. But cool. With that, I hope you all have an excellent rest of the week, and I will catch you in the next one. Corbin?
Bye.
Good night, everybody.